Well, hello everyone. So, welcome to my channel, and today I am going to be trying to draw an abandoned shed. It's all falling down and it's got a little old car in it. So I'm using the reference that's on my what do you call it? My thumbnail. I forgot words. So I'm just going to try and draw as closely as I can, and I'm going to do it with I'm going to add pen to this as well, because I just think it'll create the effect that I want. So I'm just drawing in the shed that this little car is sitting in, and the veranda, the roof on it is on a complete tilt because it's all falling down. So I'm just going to quickly pop that up there like that. So that's going to look like it's falling down. So I'm doing a very light drawing in pencil first, and then I'll draw the wooden beam that's all bent. It's actually broken in the middle like that. So I'll do that like that. I'll leave a little gap. It's all separated like that, and then come up there, pop that to there like that. So that's falling down there, and I like this picture because it's actually got nice lights and darks in it. A lot of photos you find, because I got this off Unsplash, a royalty-free reference site. But yeah, the lighting in them isn't generally that great. So now I've got to just work out. So the length of that, it's about half that height. The shed's about half the height. So I'll pop that in. Hello, Dap. How are you going? How are you today? So I'm going to be drawing an abandoned car in a shed today. Thought I'd have a go at something. I was going to do a building, and I thought, no, cars way more fun because I'm not good at cars. So let's practice cars. And I'm going to do it with pen and wash. So there's actually going to be a bit of pen drawing as well, which I like. One of my favourite things to do. Oh, my eraser's dirty. That's all right. Can always give you, or is it just the paper? I don't know. Could be the eraser. Doesn't matter. So how's your day been, Dap? How are you? And so this car, so there's actually, you can see the light at the back of the building coming through. Just like that, through there. And then there's like a bit of a wall or something there. It comes forward like that. I'm going to get the car body in, and that sort of that comes up to about, it's about 3/4 of the size of the shed. I think I've made the shed too wide. I think I have too. Just being a lazy bugger. That's okay. Lazy is good. Lazy is good. So you got to have those days sometimes. You do have to have those days sometimes, for sure. No, don't like that at all. Where's my eraser? What do I do with it? There it is. All right. I've got to be careful because I tend to elongate things, and I need to not do that. So try not to do that. This is like an old, I don't even know what, it's like here in Australia, they like an old Holden or something. He's got his big headlight spot there. That's all right, and that light's completely collapsed. So we're not going to do that one in. That's just his bonnet. And he's sitting on the ground. So there's the old radiator hole. It's all broken. Like that. And you can see the old engine bay in there, and there's, I don't know what that is, but I think that's what's left of the radiator. What's left of the bumper. And then his bonnet is up and on an angle like that. That's the back of the cab of the car, like the bottom of the engine bay. Put that in there. pop all the little, just a few of the little bits in. Just helps it to look authentic when it comes time to add colour. Okay, so he's got the things from his bonnet come down here, like that. And then he's got a rounded sort of a window, like that. I have definitely, oh no, maybe I haven't made the shed too big. Maybe it just looks like it's too big. I don't know. And there's, you can see light here. He's not sitting on wheels or anything. He's just a wreck in a shed. And there's the tree sort of back here. So that's where the headlight would have been down. Well, the headlight's collapsed, it's fallen off, or they've taken it or something. Don't know what they've done. And there's a bit of the inside of the roof falling down there like that. Same on that side. Oh, and there's the bonnet leaning up against the wall. So it's just the hook bit that's there. This will be fun because I like the rust. Rust is fun. Rust is a lot of fun. I'm not sure whether to do this with sepia or black and white. I've got a sepia pencil, but I'm not decided yet. A sepia pen rather, not pencil. So then there's that wood going across the back there, like that. And that's all aluminium, or no, what do you call it? We call it ripple iron, or corrugated iron. So pop that all there. Oops, keep it in line with the doodahs, like that. Then you can't see it over that side. You can see that there's a bit of a fence there, the wall, a big beam that's holding that there. And the colour, that the iron, I'm not going to worry about it, you can't really see it. All right, so I'm going to carefully draw in the ripple line. And there's all rubbish on the roof, like all leaf litter and God knows what else. So I've got to try and draw that in. So I'll just go along, keeping the pattern of those sort of wavy, and try and keep them similar in size. Whoops. Try and keep them similar in size. Like that. All right. And then, oh, you see what I've done here? I've not done the gap in the middle with the ripples. I need to do that. There we go. It's a bit better. And then I can draw that line down the middle where all the rubbish gathers. Like that. So that drawing is pretty much sorted. I need to not do that because I've done that the wrong direction, because they're flat, because it's all bent. So they change direction a little bit and go up. So you've got to take note of perspective when you're doing something like this. It makes a massive difference. Like that. All right, I reckon that's looking pretty cool. So I'm going to try and clean up this bit up the top. Grab a sip of my coffee before it goes cold. And I'm going to go over that with a sepia pen. Now, so it's a, what is it? It's a 0.1. So it's a little sepia pen. And it's water resistant or waterproof. So I should be able to do washes over it without any problem at all once it's dry. In theory, I haven't I should have tested this pen, but I've done it with my other microns and they're fine. So I'm assuming because it's a micron, it should be fine too. And I don't mind it having harder lines on this because it is a mechanical thing and a building. So they do tend to have harder lines. And I do love drawing above all else. So that's just where the bonnet sort of goes around. It's all rusted and I can draw the rust holes in, which will be fun. I'll make that bit more bent than it actually is. So it helps with the effect. And come around that light. Like that. Pop that in. Like that. And come down onto the bottom of the car. There's a big rust hole there. That's all dark in there with rust. Just so cool. I love rust. I love looking at rust. Rust is really pretty. And I love trying to draw it. Over the years I've done a few old sheds, drawn a few old sheds and that kind of thing. Then there's that thing there. Do that there. Then there's, I think that's the water filter thing, or the water pump for the windscreen wipers is there. All right, now that's a broken bit. It's like the whole front panel's been ripped off it. Like that. So you're sort of looking, and then that goes across there where the bumper bar was. And it's broken and it goes up, and I'll do it behind the grass. I won't do the grass in. Like that. And I can get onto the roof. There's a bit of broken stuff there. I can hear my dog having a sookie lala out the back, having a bit of a, I want to come in, I want to sit with you, Mum moment. Okay, you can't really see the back of the car, but I'm going to do a little bit more of the roof like that. The rest of the car sort of disappears off into the shadows inside. I'll just slightly hint at the shape of the inside of the car, ever so slightly. Then there's like a, and that's the radiator that's just sitting there, just sitting on the ground. It's all mangled. Or it could be a fuel tank, actually, looking at the shape of it. Could be an old fuel tank. It's got to sort of insinuate there's things in there. Righto. So I can get onto the farm building now. So I'm going to start on the left and work my way to the right. So we'll start on this side with that wood beam. And this is, yeah, just a, oh, do I do that? I won't do that. I don't think I'll do that. Oh, yeah, no, you know what, do it. It's an old bonnet or something sitting up against the wall. You can, I'm going to see a part of it. So I'll just draw that like that. So it looks a, sort of looks a bit bowed in. Then there's a wood beam coming down here. You can only just see, I'll do it like broken lines. So because it disappears off into the distance, and when I put watercolour over the top, you won't even notice. So pop these beams that way. Then he's got a support beam coming. Oh, yep, no, that goes over the front. No, it doesn't. They go, that goes over the front. Okay, like that. Then I pop that beam there, like that. like that. So it's a bit three-dimensional, because you can easily forget that things have sides on them. So those wooden planks have got sides, and then this is colour bond as well. So I'll draw that a bit stronger. Not colour bond, what do I call it? Ripple line. When it's got colour on it, it's called colour bond. Yeah. All right. Oh, I've got his little mirror. His mirror's fallen off. Like that. Doesn't have one on that side, it's gone. Cool. All right. And then I can draw these little, oh, I forgot that beam down there, didn't I? I'm forgetting stuff left, right and centre. That. I haven't started on the roof yet, have I? So I've got to go up to the roof then. Actually quite happy with this as a drawing thus far. I'll just suggest it in the background. You can't really see it. I think for the drawing's sake it needs to be there. I'll just make it really dark in there. Like that. Because, you know, the drawing's the fun part of this. I love the drawing part. Like that. Then, oh, there's these beams here, so I've got to draw these. That's a bent beam. Like that. And I can add, at the end, I can add more details to the wood, like I can add some grain and things. So continue on going around those ripples on the ripple iron. The old falling down abandoned shed. There we go. Ooh. Okay, then I can start with the roof. There's a beam goes across there. Take that straight across, like that. It's the only part of the structure that's actually standing upright. The rest of it's a little bit bit. So what I'm going to do is draw in, rather than doing just lines, I'm going to draw in little scoops that suggest the shape. Technically, they're not lines. It's where all the dust and dirt gathers in the dips. So I just draw them in, take my time. That will be half of the effect of it. I can do them a bit lighter. If I had it, I'd love to. I've got to get a 003 in sepia, but I haven't seen one yet. I'm doing this with a sepia pencil, a sepia pen. Another sip of me coffee. Excuse me. All right. Leave little gaps. Got to be careful to follow the lines. Then I'm going to do washes over the top. Just having a quick look. There's trees in the background. I should probably draw those as well, shouldn't I? Because there's broken down trees and all kinds of stuff in the background behind the shed. So I might pop those in as well. We'll see how we go. I shall see how I go. That right up to the top. Then you can actually see the ripples are at the top as well, which I haven't done them yet, but I can do them at the end. that's fine, because I'll have these lines defining where they are too, which will help. Okay. So I'll pop that up there. Right to the top. Have another sip of my coffee before it goes too cold. That. Do this one. You can see the ripple lines sort of spread out there. It doesn't matter, because it's sort of all bent and warped and twisted, and because of years of wear and tear and branches probably fallen on it and all kinds of things happening to it. I'm just looking at the trees in the background, and they're almost the same colour. Like, they're the same colour as the old tin, and which is interesting. The sky's just a blue-grey. There's shadows all off to the left. This is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting to paint. This is going to be very interesting to paint. So I'm trying desperately to improve my painting skills and my perception skills of seeing what I draw, putting onto paper what I see. It's a fun thing to try and do. So this is a bit time consuming, but it's all part of the job, eh? When you're creating art, it is not fast. I mean, I've done lots of time lapses. It's fun to actually share the whole process. You can see what goes into a piece when you know, because I have done time lapses for so long, where everything's condensed into like 5 minutes. You can see what actually goes on behind the scenes to create one of these pieces. Okay, create this little shadowy bit over here. I must get online and see if I can get some grey microns. I want to get a grey set. Be very careful coming down there. Same there. Fill that in down there. It's coming together. It's coming together. Best to start at the bottom and work my way back. And you can see I've got to sort of angle it slightly to the left because it's all bent. If I did it in a straight line, it wouldn't sort of exactly work. So I'm sort of, my lines are tapering back to the left. Get those into there. Keep going until I get to the top. My chairs are all creaky. I don't know why. They're They're very comfy, but they're very creaky. Oh, and I've just realised I forgot, because I play car games as well. I play the Euro Truck Sim I stream that on Twitch, and I've set my chair to truck driving height. But I actually don't mind being low to. I've just realised it's not a bad spot to be in. Well, there you go. Because I'm low to the table, but that's actually not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. Oops. Just going to check my reference. I've got to zoom in a little bit here. Got a zoomy. Just a second. Come on, thing. All right, hang on. Come across this way. And I'm going to sneak it off to the right. I'm going to keep these at the top closer together up there. Like that. There we go. Then, am I going to draw these trees in? I probably should. I reckon I should, because they are there. So I might as well. So there's a tree. I can draw them in, and if I don't like them, I can always remove them. Tree coming in here, and the branch goes off like that, and then up here like that, then disappears back off down. And there's another one. Well, that is that one. That's that one. Goes like that, like that. All the branches in the background. Don't have to do all of them in, but I'll do a few of them. Like that. And it's good practicing anyway to get your observancy skills happening for seeing drawing what you see. And then there's that bush there. There's another, actually a shed here. Am I going to do that? I'm not going to. Yeah, I should. I should do that. So I'll draw that in like that, and then that's all iron as well. Disappears down there though. Okay, I can draw that in with pen now. I reckon I like that. Oh, and what I've just realised, because this is a window, so you can see the backs of the bottoms of these trees coming down here. Not all of them. Oh, and I haven't done that either, have I? Oh no, that's right. Oh no, that's not right. That's the window there. Whoops. So I'm going to erase that bit. And then there's just sort of green in the background. All right. Let me sepia. There. I actually accidentally just picked up the wrong pen. Doesn't matter though. You won't even notice, I promise. Come across there. A few branches going off there, so I'll pop that on there. Like that. That tree goes that way. The lumpy bumpy trees. Like that. That comes down there and that becomes that tree. And then there's a branch going off there. We'll do one up there just because we can. Like that. It does look a bit better with the trees behind it, I think. There's lots of gnarled bits on there, but I'm not going to do those. The trees aren't the focus of the picture. The car is. The old abandoned car. Drew the colour bond off that shed. Doesn't have to be exact. Like that. Patterns coming down here. I'll fill that in a bit with other. And that's all just ripple line as well, coming down there. Just do that in very lightly, like that. Righto. Rightio. Reckon that's about right. I'll do the bushy bits. Let's do a few little, so it looks sort of like there's scrubbery. There's little sort of odd shapes. The bushes there. Actually, it's grass back here. And then the bushes there. Don't know what kind of tree that is, but drawing all that in. And then there's dirt in the shed. There we go. So that is the drawing, pretty well done. So what we're going to do is have a sip of my coffee. There you go, that drawing took about half an hour, so they don't take terribly long. Now I'm going to grab my brush, my middle-sized brush. What size are you? I reckon I'll go with a size 10. Get me a bit of cloth. And I'm going to wet the background where the sky is. We're going to do the background first, so you work from the back to the front. So wet me paper, leaving the shed alone. Oh, I should have erased the pencil lines. Before I do that, quickly erase the pencil lines. I can't do over where I've just put that touch of water. It doesn't matter. I can do next to it. It's the only bit that I can't erase, and that's fine. So just erase all those pencil lines like that. You can see where I've missed a couple and I need to put a couple back. So grab my sepia and put them back. Because I do like to have the sepia pen lines like that. There we go. And then I've missed a bit there too, because that's where the steel bends down. Goes like that. So just pop that on there, like that. There could be a hard line down there. Righto. Okay, so now I can go on and wet my paper. Put my water up here. And wet the background. Beautiful. And I'm going to put, because I can go over the tree bits and the, I've got to do, because you can see the light coming through the back there. So I'm going to do that coming through there. And the trees are a darker grey, so they're darker than the sky, so that's fine. So I grab my cobalt blue, quite diluted. And I can go over all of the top of this. Whoops, I haven't got enough on my brush. Go over the whole lot. And skies generally dark from the top and they get lighter towards the ground. So the top of the painting's darker and it'll just get lighter as it goes down. I might drop a bit more pigment in there. It's not quite strong enough. So do that. Drop that in while it's still wet. Let it flow down. Drag it down a little bit maybe. There we go. I can actually take that right down onto this scrubby bush here. Like that. Go into the back of that car. You can see through the back of that window. Because that's all see-through bit. Just there. Righto. Now I've got to let that dry a little bit. Actually, I can drop the bush in. That bush I can drop in because while it's still a bit wet, it'll blend a bit better because it's quite dark. So I can pop that in while it's still wet. Just cut around. The side, I can cut the top there. And the pen helps a bit, like having the pen drawing in there does help carry the piece a little bit. All right. Pop that in there like that. You can see a bit of a bush over here, so I'll pop that in there like that. Bit of a bush bit here. All right. I might, while it's still wet, just drop in. I can go over that anyway with, I'll leave that, do that like that. All right, I'll let that dry a little bit now. Mix up maybe a little bit darker green. So I'll go a bit of olive, a bit of indigo, just to darken that up. Get a real dark green gutsy sort of look, because down here is all shadowy. While it's still damp, I'll drop that in the background. Like that. And I'll leave that alone. Got to darken up this bit while it's still wet. And that bit's almost completely dark. Right. All right, and I don't have any hard lines, so that's always good. Now I have me another sip of my coffee. Okay, I've got to wait for that to dry a little bit. So I can go, where can I go? I'm going to work around the car. So I'm going to go onto the Colour Bondi tinny bit. I'm going to make a grey with burnt umber and cobalt blue. Make my grey. Burnt umber, cobalt blue. Dilute that right down. And then run that along the roof of the shed. Very diluted, and wet the whole top of the shed. Like that. Leave a little bit of light at the top. Leave a little bit of light at the top. All right. And then I can drop in some more burnt umber, cobalt blue, slightly darker. Slightly less water, slightly more pigment. And where I've got these darker lines, I'm just going to drop that over the top. Like that. To help those lines look shadowed. That's probably a little bit dark, isn't it? No, they are dark. I just need to trust it. Leave it, trust it. Oops. A bit more on my brush. I just dilute that down a little bit. Take a bit from back there. Burnt umber, cobalt blue. All right. There's all kinds of leaf litter and everything in there. It's this blue-grey. Gee, the paper dries quick. All right. Drag that down like that. to all of those lines. Just working on one piece at a time, more or less, like that. A bit more blue in there up the top, and I've just got to do these burnt umber, cobalt blue. A bit more burnt umber, makes a beautiful grey. And just darken up in the tops of these colour bonds. Like that. All right. I just change the sort of movement of my brush marks a little bit to vary that up a little. Righto. So that's that. Now I reckon I can go onto the trees a little bit. So I'm going to, for the trees, I'm going to do a little bit of yellow ochre. A little bit of yellow ochre. A little tiniest bit of burnt umber, just to brown it off a little. The trees are a grey, greeny brown. So then I'm going to go up into this tree, sort of staying away from the lines a little bit. Follow the lines of the branches. You can leave little bits because the paper's still a little bit damp, so it helps to carry the paint around the paper, which is good. And I'll add some darker shadowy bits on these. At the moment they're going to look flat because I've got to come down in here because that branch goes down there. That one's got one there. That one disappears in there. I can fix those up in a minute. You sort of see where they'd come down under there, like that. I can add a little bit more burnt umber to brown that off the shadow areas, or a bit of purpley grey will do just as good a job. So that's pretty simply trees in. Now I'll just make up a purpley colour for the shadows. Blue and a bit of red. Bit of blue, bit of red. Go on a bit of indigo. And I'm going to pop that just around on this side of the trees. Anywhere that I can see that it's in shadow, because they're not just flat one colour. That branch is shadowed under there and over there. And yeah, while the paper's still damp, it'll blend with the colour that's already on the paper. That's quite dark down there. I can darken all of that off pretty much. On that side of this branch. Like that. And go up into there, adding that shadow colour. And then now it comes to this side, sort of over here, like that. I'll take that down there. All right, so then we've connected all the trees and all the branches and all the bits. I'm going to take that one down a bit there. Okay. So now I'm going to leave that for a minute, let that settle. Let that settle, Gretel. And I've got to go on to these woody bits. So the woody bits, I'm going to go a bit of yellow ochre. This is for the wood on the building itself. A little yellow ochre. I'm going to try, actually add a little bit of caput mortem to that. See what happens. It'll make like a orangey brown. It's a nice woody colour, to be honest. I'm just going to test that on a bit of paper. Yep, that's right. I'm going to wet just down here the wood bit that comes across the front of the shed. I'll wet that. Take that like that across the front of the shed, just for that first layer. So it's a little bit of yellow ochre and a little bit of caput mortem, and I've got to build that up. bit darker at the top where it's in shadow, but I'll do that in a minute. I've got to sort of grade off a bit maybe. I'm sort of figuring out what I like, but I can do, this is the first layer. It'll be fine for the first layer because the woods is sort of discoloured and greyed off and browned off and all of those things, and there's a bit of red in it. There's all kinds of things, a bit of mould on it, a bit of rust on it, a bit of oogly boogly. Okay. Just going to quickly roughly get over the top of these bits. That. All right. So that's just a base layer anyway. And I'm going to go back in with the grey, burnt umber, and I might go a bit of indigo. It's quite a cool grey. And I'm going to take that along this part, shadowy bit underneath there. Go into those gaps. While the paper's still wet, let it flow around a bit. And do some jaggedy lines so it looks like wear and tear on the or age on the wood. I'll just take that along the end there, and then same, just take that along, leaving little glimmers of the undercolour coming through like that. It helps to make it look old. So as you can see, I'm working this up in layers, and here too, same thing. Take it down the front, leaving little bits of the undercolour coming through like that. And I'll build darker in the shadow areas. It's like it's all sort of seems a bit the one colour at the moment, but it'll get darker as I layer it up. All right. Now that all in the background is nearly completely in shadow, so I can probably go in over that now with this grey. The car's in the foreground, so it's a bit lighter. It's going to have much lighter parts on it. But I'm just going to grey out all of this background. Like that. Can you see? You can't see through that bit. So again, burnt umber, indigo, whoops, a bit more burnt umber. Okay, dilute that quite strongly down. Whoops, that's way too dark, but that's okay. I can just add some more water. And come to the inside of the car and take it along the fence. You can see behind the car. It's actually darker into there as well. And I can fill in the back part of this shed. That. Add a bit more water. So I'm just blocking in now the darker areas. And I'll add some purples and some different colours in there. I can get that bead at the bottom and use that on this side. Like that. Just to get that first wash of colour in there. Oops, it doesn't matter that I've gone over that bit. Does not matter at all. Okay. Right, so while that's still damp now, to give it some life, I'm going to mix up a purpley colour. I'm going to go a bit of indigo, a bit of red, a bit more indigo. I always accidentally add a bit too much red, and into the very darkest areas at the back, while the paper's still damp, I'm going to drop that shadow colour because it's all very dark at the back here. So I'm just going to cut around the car. You actually can't see that woods, and you'll be able to see it through the paint when it dries anyway. I've got to darken that right up. So I'm going to damp my brush, drag that down and around. I can't see that piece of wood, so that's fine. I'll go over the top of that. Like that. And then same behind the car, directly in here. And I've just realised you can see a little bit through that window, so I'm just going to pop a little bit there like that. And so all the darkest shadow bits at the back I've done with indigo and a bit of alizarin crimson, I think it is. Yep, that's all shadowed as well. So I'll pop that in there. I will pop that in there. Like that. And then come onto this side. Pop a bit of a shadow like it's as if there's windows there. Like that. And then go across the length of the back. Because you can see the light coming through from the back part of the shed where you can see those trees. I should just cover those beams because you can't see them. Oh, actually, now that I've said that, there is a bit there that has got a bit of light on it. So I'm just going to lift that out, wet my brush and lift that up and just scrub a little bit. And I can take out that bit there that I've just put down. I want to lighten that a fraction, just there. So I'm just going to lighten that by literally scrubbing over the top. It has stained the paper, but it doesn't matter because it's still, I can still take it back a little bit while it's damp to create that lighter effect just there. All right, now I've got to get that shadow colour onto this bit here because this is quite dark. I come to this side of, you can see the light sort of coming in and touching this bit of wood on the front here. So I'll make it dark pretty much all the way. And because you can see the underdrawing, you can still see the details of the building. Oh my gosh, my dog wants to come in so bad. And that's dark at the top there, but I'll leave. My goodness, puppy dog. So you can see I'm gradually getting lighter towards the front where you can see the light is peeking in a little bit, like that. Now I've got to do the shadow on this side. Now this is very dark over here. Very dark. So I might actually even add a little bit more indigo to that. Just in there. And let that flow around. I'm just grabbing a little bit more indigo because you want to get the different shadow colours. It's not all just one flat shadow colour. So I can drop that in. I can wet it a little bit more like that and drag that around on the top of those beams. I might make it a bit darker in there. Like that. Dark, definitely darker there. I don't want it all one flat colour. I want all different colours, so it just is interesting. And then I can do suggest the lines like that. It's darker in here. Suggest those lines in there. Actually, it's very dark in there. So I'll do it darker on that side, and then as I come to this side, start to suggest the lines like that. And then just take them down like that. Go very dark towards the bottom. Like that. And very dark on the bottom on that side. Now the dirt in the bottom is actually just brown. It doesn't it's not particularly anything special. So that'll be, I hope that'll be easy to do. Famous last words, probably won't be. I'm just going to pop some more shadow lines in here because that's all that ripple line. Like that. And just let that do its thing, just suggest it. Go under this bit of bonnet or whatever the hell that is. Like that. Right. Get a slightly lighter mix. Just coming towards the front. Just do that. Onto the, whoops, ripply shapes. And I'm doing this on hot press paper, hot press watercolour. So I'm going to go a strong purple. Actually, I might go, yeah, a strong purple. So I'm going to go a bit of indigo. Oh, way too much red. I always grab too much red. Always. There we go. Always grab too much red. And I'm just going to drop that. Oh, needs to be a bit more indigo in there. and drop that in while it's still wet and let that run just at the back in the darkest bits. Like that. And then in that shadowy bit at the top, let that run down. Go back into here, the darkest bit, like that. You can see we're starting to get a little bit of three-dimensional, a bit of perspective, a bit of dark, bit of light, bit of everything, bit of all the fun stuff that goes with watercolour. Like that. Don't do too much because I can get carried away and do too much and it just muddies the whole thing. So you've got to sort of get to a point where you go, okay, now I've got to stop. I'm going to dilute that down a fraction for this side, just here and here. And then bring that across more diluted, coming down over those lines that I've already popped in. Like that. And they're not completely like start and finished. And okay, clean my... Hello, Shane. How you going, Dale? How are you today? All right, so I'm going to clean my palette and I've got to get some grass colours. I'm going to let that sit for a minute and I'm going to do the grass around the car. Oh, I forgot that shed. No, I'm not. I'm going to mix up a grey and I'm going to do that shed. So I'm going to go burnt umber. Whoops. Burnt umber, cobalt blue. Mix up a pale grey. So how was your day, Shane? I'm good. It's Friday. Is it Friday yet? No. I wish. No, it's only Tuesday here, Dale. It's Monday there and it's, yeah, no. Sorry, Dale. I wish I could help you there. I was like, I wish it was. I do love Fridays. I do love Fridays. Fridays are awesome. And then I'm going to mix up a bit more strong purple because there's very dark shadows on this side. Just in here. While that's still wet, I'm going to let it run. It's like the inside of that bit there. Whoops. That's all right. Just like that. I'm going to take that up there. And I'm just going to dark up. While it's still wet, let that run in. Like that. So that's just the building next to it, and I'll just drag that down with a bit of a damp brush. And I'm not going to do anything else. That's not the focus. The focus is here. So that was a bit of fun, though. I have to say that was fun to do. Okay, next. I am going to get onto the grass. So I'm going to start with, oh no, I'm going to do the dirt that's in the doodah, in his here. In where the car is, the dirt that's in his here. That doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm going to go, it looks like a little bit. I'm going to go with the burnt umber. I'm just going to go with a plain old burnt umber. Like just a wash. Burnt umber. See a little bit coming up through the bottom of the car there. Very wishy-washy, very pale. I'm away for a long weekend from Friday. Oh, nice. Where are you off to? Got any plans? So I've just wet that all down with a little bit of burnt umber in it, and I'm just going to pop in some, just not solid colour, just patches of brown. So you can see little bits of, just so it looks sort of dirty and a bit oogly boogly. I might pop a bit of a darker brown, bit more, and a bit of a stronger burnt umber in there. Just around the edges. There's little sticks and little bits laying around. Not too much, because if you do too much, it'll just look overdone. So I'm just going to do that. It's a little bit darker underneath the car, so I'll do it a bit stronger there. A bit stronger there, maybe. Going about 150 miles. Nice. All right. So I'm going to leave that alone now. Actually, I can pop, there's little bits at the back like that. It's basically just sticks and things and all stuff that's just fallen on the ground in the shed. So I'm just going to leave that alone now and get onto the grass. So for the grass, I'm going to use a bit of sap green. Oops. A bit of sap to begin with. A bit of blue. A bit of cobalt blue. Maybe a bit more yellow. I'm sort of just mixing it up till it looks right. So that's a light green. So for the first wash, I'm going to do a light green. And I'm going to take that all over the bottom. Oh, I can't answer that because I'm streaming. Just ignore that, peeps. The only people that ring the house phone anyway are usually people trying to sell you stuff. So they can leave a message if it's important. So I'm just literally filling in this bottom bit with the pale green wash. Whoops. Probably didn't mix up enough, but that's okay. There we go, that's fine. I'll mix up a little bit more. A little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow. Let's have a look. It's a little bit darker and just a little bit of a different tone. Just add that into different areas. A little bit darker over here, a little bit darker there. Just keeping it different through different parts of the picture. Come up here. Don't want it everywhere. And it's darker across here. So just take that, just literally rough, like really rough. Because it's an old abandoned building, old abandoned car shed. Like that. I'm holding a cloth that's full of water, so I'm going to take all the excess idiots off that and get a fresh piece of paper. I always have a piece of paper in my lap for cleaning my brushes and stuff. All right. I'm going to take that up there. I can add some more like grassy textures towards the end. I'm just going to leave it alone for a minute though. I don't actually mind it being a little bit rough looking like that. I don't mind it. You know, it's loose. It's what watercolour does. I can add a few texture bits like that. Maybe go a little bit darker. Maybe grab a little bit of a darker green just for a couple of spots like back here. Like that. Don't want to do it everywhere, like I said. Bit here. Back here. Back towards these trees at the back. I can darken up most of that. Add a few texture bits here. So the foreground sort of into the bits that I've drawn by pen. Maybe a couple down here. All right. Try not to have a regular pattern. Okay, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave that alone. And now we're going to get onto the car after I've had a sip of coffee. We're going to get onto the car. And I can touch up some final shadow bits on the shed as I go, but for now it's looking okay. So the car is like a very pale blue. It's like the original paint on it was a pale, pale blue. And then it's got rust over the top. So I'm going to go just a bit of cobalt blue, and I'm going to dilute that right down. So it's very, very, very watery. And I'm going to I'll pop that on. So incredibly watery, and that'll dry back even more pale. I'm going to work on it like one section at a time, because then I'm going to drop in some reddy brown for the rust. Because there's lots of rust. So I'm literally going to drop the rusty bits like that using the reddy brown like that, and go back into my very diluted blue. Take that into the chassis, into here, down the back of the car there. And while that's still a little bit, it's very, very pale. It's almost not noticeable. And I'm going to drop in, I think it's Caput Morton. I'm going to use that for me rust, because it's a lovely red brown. Oops. Bit too much maybe. I can take that edge away. And it's very rusty almost all the way down there. Like that. And I can strengthen those rust lines Got to get a bit more Caput Mortem on my palette. All right. I'll drop a bit more in there. Oops, I need to get a bit more pure pigment to drop a little dot sort of there. Then I'll just drag that edge out. The paper dried on me, but that's okay. So now I'm going to wet around the top, around here. Oops. So just sort of taking my damp brush, wet brush, not damp brush, it's a wet brush, around there. I'm going to drop that blue, sky bluey colour in. That's the colour of the car, it's that bluey colour. And then, transparent sienna might be a better rusty colour. Let's have a look. No, that's too brown. It's too brown. It needs to be reddy brown. It needs to be Caput Mortem. Take that, drop that in there around the rim of the car. So while the water's still, oh, a bit too much. That's all right, I can lift it up. Actually, no, I don't have to. It's gonna run around the shape of the car anyway. That's fine. I can just dob up that tiny little bit. Like that. Just lift off that tiny little bit there. All right, and there. Bring a bit more around this side. Could go into the body of the car, that's fine, because that is where it is. And onto the bonnet. So I'm going to clean the brush. Go onto the, wet the bonnet. Go in with the sky blue. Or it's cobalt blue, but incredibly diluted. What am I saying sky blue for? It's not sky blue at all. Oh, I suppose it is. It's what I used for the sky, technically. Okay, then I drop that Caput Mortem in there. Righto. Now it's very rusty in that hole, so I'm just going to go in with a bit of my dirty brush, like that. Fill it in there. Drop in, just literally touch it in, like that. And let that sort of run around, and it'll look like a little sort of rust. I don't want to fill it all solidly. All right, cool. Now, same on the, I'm working my way down to the front of the car. Get the sky blue colour. I'm just leaving a little gap around where I've just put that colour. Come down under here, and there's a big rust spot there, so I'm just going to use the sky blue colour. Drop that rusty spot in there. And then there's a rust hole there. Like that. I can take that down there. Now, I'm going to wet this side of the car. Wet this side of the car. So clean my brush, get a bit more water off it. What are you using that water for? I've got a water right next to me, and I'm leaning back to get the water behind me. Up there for thinking, darling. Okay, grab some more cobalt, very diluted. It's force of habit to reach behind me for the water. I don't know why I do that. It's not ergonomic, but yeah, habit. I'm just going to fill all this in now. And I'll add a bit of... This would be fun to go in with a little bit of watercolour pencil as well, I would say. Could be fun. Just to help to define things. I'm going to go in with my shadow colour too into this bit, just around the inner edge, like that, to really darken that off. And I've just wet all in there. So I want to also take a bit of that. I'm going to add the shadow colour to it. So a bit of the Caput Mortem, a bit of the shadow colour, and drop that in. Because that sort of all disappears off into shadow in there. Like that. Then it comes up to here. So I'm just looking around, seeing what I can just take some lines, fill in some darker bits. Now this bit here is also very dark, so I'm going to go into my shadowy colour and just drop that in, because I actually wet that a minute ago, so that's fine. So that's all wet and good. Now this is a radiator and it's sort of a blue-grey. I've got to add some reds to that too. Let's have a look. Might go a bit of, what's that? Got to be a bit careful though. Don't want it to be too red, because it's rust is reddy brown. It is reddy brown. So caput mortem is pretty much the colour it needs to be. I'm just going to re-wet that bit there. Drop a bit more caput mortem in there, because that's all rust holes, and for the darker rusty holes I'll pop in little blobs of that purple, the shadow colour, like this. So for the very darker bits, help bring definition. It's shadowed under there, like that. And it's shadowed under here. So I'm just taking the very tip of my brush, and it's starting to pop things out a bit where I want them. I'm just going to darken up this little bit in the front corner here, like that. A little bit there. Got to do that line there's quite dark. And then under here, try and keep a fine line if I can. It's a little bit jaggedy, but that's okay. The jaggedy is fine. Darken up these bits here. You can barely see in there. Righto. Now, I've sort of got to do this radiatory bit. I don't know how to, I'm not quite sure. So I'm going to wet it, and I'll go in with more blue, because it is bluey grey sort of colour. So I'm just going to drop a bit of blue in, drag that around like that. Take it down there. Just let it sort of fill itself in a little bit. Go the deep dark shadow colour over here, and then take that back into it. Let it sort of flow in a bit, like that. Darken up this top. Just the illusion of shadows. That's probably a bit bright blue. Oops. I can just dull that. I can literally go back and clean my brush, take the excess moisture off and lift it up, and then dab it with my clean bit of cloth and just lift out that bright blue. It was just a bit too bright. So I'll just have to go in with it. I'll wet it and I'll go in with that shadow colour. It'll just be that shadow colour. So I'll just re-wet it and pop in that shadow colour and let it flow. Like that. Like that. Okay. Like that. All right. So now I'm going to get a fine... Oh, am I going to do it now? I'm going to get my fine brush. Not a super fine brush, but my number, what is it? What number is it? Number 4? My number 4 brush. And I'm just going to go round. Oops. Get a bit more moisture on it. Around the edges. Just to define some more detail on the car. Because the car is the focus, because the car's the the shed and the car. Because they're the abandoned. The prompt is abandoned. So I'm just popping shadows in the areas that I think need it. I need to pop some more rust in there. Oh, but if I do that, it might end up looking a bit flat. And I don't want to do that. I'm just going to pop a bit of rust up here though. Bit of that rusty colour. And that bit's all gone. It's all been ripped off. So I'm just going to wet that again. Drop a tiny little bit of red in there. Come on, red. Come on, red. Come out of your palette. Teeniest little bit. Like that. I might do a little bit of that around in here as well. Into that shadow colour, just drop a little bit of red in, let it do its thing. Just hit 1 a.m, so I'm going to say good night, my friend. No worries, mate. Good night. Sleep well. Thank you for popping in. Thank you for popping in, doll. So I've re-wet that. I'll drop a bit more red in there. Over the top. Let it do its thing. Wet down the bottom. So the car's just a complete wreck. It's a complete wreck. And I was a bit worried to draw it because I thought, oh, it just needs to look like a car. I hope it looks like a car by the time I'm done. And I think it's sort of looking like a car, so I'm a bit happy-ish. Got to add wet in there. Pop a bit of red. Just dot it and let it run. Like that. Wet the bonnet, just clean my brush. Take the water across the front like that. Little bit of red. Drop it in. Like that. Come around there. Right. Now I'm going to go back into my deep dark shadow purple, just down under here. Between these grass blades, I want to just darken up. And around underneath. It is very dark down in there. All right. So I'm going to mix up a really gutsy dark purple. So indigo, red. I might even add a little bit of Payne's grey to it. See what happens. Test that on a bit of paper. Oh, that's nice, okay. And just darken up. Now I'm going to go in. Got to wet the paper actually. And wet there. I'm going to use that colour. Just come across here. Actually, that lightened it off, didn't it? Add a bit more. There we go. Just going to darken up that bit. Same on this beam. There's not enough texture on that beam, so I just wet, clean, or a cleanish brush. It's all going to be dark anyway. And then run that shadow colour into there and let it run up. And just let it add texture to the wood. I've got to darken up this side. This side's nearly all in shadow, so I'm just going to re-wet all of that. Re-wet all of that. And drop that shadow colour in and let it fill up. Let it do its thing. Let it do what shadows do. And the same with this bit. I'm just going to re-wet over the top of all of that. Drop that in. Drop in the shadow colour. And let it disperse itself. Like that. Sort of help the car to pop out a bit. It's all looking a little bit flat, so got to get a bit of that three-dimensional thing happening. And I've got to darken up here too, so I'm going to wet this piece of wood up here. And I'm going to go in with that same shadow colour. Go rogue or go home. You've got to be brave. And it unifies it, having the same colours throughout. Helps to unify a piece. So drop a bit more of that in. Like that. And I can go across and add the wood sort of texture. Like that. Might add a bit more to the top because it is quite dark in there. Come down this side. Like that. That's looking a bit better. And the same on this side now. So I'm going to wet this. Like that. And then drop in that shadow colour at the top. Sort of getting it darker up into the ripply bits. Like that. and then let it flow sort of down like that. I can add the wood textures. So go indigo, mix up a bit more indigo, bit of red, touch of red. Make it purpley. Ugh, too much red. I always do. I always add too much red. And then a little bit of Payne's grey. Touch of Payne's grey. There we go. It's beautiful, deep, gutsy dark, that is. And then I'm going to pop that in, just up in this corner. And sort of suggest a sort of strip of wood. Like that. And then same down here. Oops. It's my dog trying to get in. I apologise for that, guys. He doesn't like being separated from me. I usually have him in the art room. But he has a tendency to bark, so, which I don't mind, but it can sort of hurt your eardrums if you're listening on a microphone. Okay. Right. I quite like that, I think. Just got to wet the front of this. Doesn't matter that there's a little bit of the blue pigment in there. I'm just going to go down the inside. Oops, too much water, too much water. Just dab that up with my cloth. There we go. Just come down the inside of that. So that's indigo and indigo, red, and a little touch of Payne's grey. Come down the bottom there. Now, what's this shadow doing? It's shadowed behind here. Just down in there. And under here. Not on the top. Like that. It's darker on this side. How we want it to be. Darker underneath there. Darker there. Very dark in that corner. But I think I'll have it lighter on that side and darker on the left. I think that just creates a bit of interest. And I might darken up the grass on this side. So I'm just going to re-wet, clean my brush. I don't know why I keep leaning back to that water. Clean my brush, wet this side of the paper again and go in with a stronger green. Everything sort of seems to be a bit darker on this side. So I'm going to take the dark onto this side. Wet my paper quite thoroughly. Go in with my olive green. I'm going to add a bit of blue to it just to darken it up. Might just dry that, pat it out a little bit and just darken up some grassy bits over here. Don't want it everywhere, I just want it in bits. So I'm literally just doing strippy lines of grass into the foreground, sort of in front of the car a little bit, and maybe leave it at that. Don't want to do it everywhere. Maybe I'll have to add a few bits, but not a lot. I'm just going to wet over here. I just add a few strands maybe. I'm not going to go overboard though, just so it unifies it, because the grass is sort of dead in front, and a bit more down here, longer in the foreground. Like that. Forget about the distance. I might darken that bit there. Adds a bit more texture into that bush at the back. So do you see things as you go and you go, oh yeah, I could do that and I could do that. Just to add a little bit of depth to that. I've got to do more with these. I don't like the trees at all. The colour I've got on the trees is just bleh. So I'm going to make get a bit of burnt umber. Just got to darken up on one side of the trees. I don't quite know what I did there, but I don't know why it went that funny colour, but I must have accidentally put my brush in something I shouldn't have. Doesn't matter, because they're sort of dead wood trees anyway. They're a bit dead looking. I'll drag that out and around. I'm not going to add it everywhere, just to add a bit of... I'm going to re-wet that one. Drop a bit of burnt umber in it. The darker side. Like that. wet this tree. I'm not going to do it heavily because they're not the focus. Just enough to say, okay, one side's darker than the other. Same on this one. Actually, this one's, oh God, I had to do a bit of goo on me. Oh, lift that off. If I get it quickly, I can lift it off. Clean me brush. Go in with a bit of burnt umber. It's not the end of the world. There we go. Bit more burnt umber. Darken up in there. I can actually go around, when this is dry, I can go around with my sepia again. Because I drew this originally with pencil and then sepia. Sepia ink pen. What do you call them? Microns. Sepia micron. That's what I used. But I reckon that's not looking too bad. I think I've got to do a little bit more, just a little bit of rust around this part of the car. A little bit of rust around here. Just there. I'm going to go back into my rusty colour. Just drop that in and around there. Like that. I think that just needed a little bit of rust. It did. Like that. A little blip of red. And I reckon we're done. I reckon I'm pretty happy with that. For a watercolour sketch, I'm pretty happy. So let's sign it. So I'm going to pop my signature down this corner. And then we'll take the great unveiling, take the edges off. Because that's an awesome fun bit. So I'm just going to peel the edges off. And it'll give it that beautiful, nice, clean edge look that I love so much. Like that. Woohoo! I like that. And then come up here. And that's hot press watercolour paper that comes in a little book. It's called, what is it? I've got it here. Hang on, I'll grab it and I'll show you. I'm using the Aquarelle Fontaine 300 GSM, 140 pound hot press. It's my favourite everyday watercolour paper. So I am done. So that was lots and lots and lots and lots of fun. I have no idea what tomorrow's prompt is for World Watercolour Month, but this is today's prompt, which was abandoned. So I've done my little abandoned shed and car. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys and girls. Have an awesome day. I will see you tomorrow for the next stream. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. I just got to go over here and turn off my thing. Have an awesome one, guys.